So starting off here, my name is Scot West. In my day job, I'm the managing director of Ronstan, but at the moment, I've stuck my nose into our marketing department and asked if I could host one of our Shooting the Breeze interviews. Shooting the Breeze interviews are the brainchild of a guy named Steve Brayshaw, who is a key account manager for us in Australia. And Steve started doing these interviews with some of his sailing heroes at the beginning of the pandemic. He's done like 15 or maybe even 20 interviews now with, I actually originally wrote some of the best sailors in the world, and I thought I should clarify some of the fastest sailors in the world. I don't know if they're the best, but they certainly go fast. And at one point I challenged Steve. I said, Steve, find some cruising sailors and interview them. But his passions aren't foiling. His passions aren't going fast. And so when he didn't take up my challenge, I said, well, I'll just do it myself. And that's when I contacted you guys about a month ago. So for anybody that's watching, I'm here with Behan and Jamie Gifford of Sailing Totem. And they've agreed to be our first cruising sailor interview on Shooting the Breeze. So hello, Jamie and Behan.
Hi, Scot.
Hey, Scot.
I think Jamie wishes he could be one of the really fast sailors.
It's a bit of my background in the past.
Yeah. Now I know you're a former. Well, you guys both were pretty competitive racing sailors once upon a time, right?
Well, Jamie was. I was a little more rail meat, but I love racing. Racing is what got me hooked on sailing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I was a sailmaker, sail designer in the past, involved in some cool programs, everything up to America's Cup and Whitbread and Vendée Globe, BOC.
Everything. Top of the world. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Let's see if I can sum up your family. But this is the part. Correct me if I get anything wrong. And I actually stumbled across something I didn't realize until just today when putting some of these notes together. So you guys are a family of five who, as I read it, back in 2008, put your plan in place to kind of, I wrote, chuck it all and go sailing. Looks like the dream started when you sailed out of Puget Sound on August 21st, 2008. And at that stage, your three kids were 4, 6, and 9. And so if I'm any good at math, that makes them now 16, 18, and 21.
That's right.
So that's my little parallel. I have a 16-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 21-year-old. And just so I can have one more, I've got a 14-year-old floating around as well. But so maybe we can compare parenting notes in our different lives. But so that's 12 years now cruising. Completed a full circumnavigation. And am I understanding right that there's no end in sight?
That's right.
All right. So yeah, that's the sort of quick intro, but I'm thrilled to have you guys here today to tell the story and tell us what you're up to. So where are you today and what's kind of most next for you guys?
So today we're actually at my father's home on Bainbridge Island, Washington. Our boat Totem is back in Mexico at the far north end of the Sea of Cortez. We did a crazy road trip to come up here to have a chance to check in with my parents and the kind of convenient opportunity then to pick up our son in college on the way back to the boat. When we head back next week, he'll come with us and get a more COVID-controlled trip to Totem.
And the cold, gray, and wet is enough to really send us fleeing back to
Mexico.
Mexico.
We're kind of over it.
You'll be driving faster south than you did north, eh?
I think so.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I did a side-by-side of the weather 10-day forecast recently, and here it was like every day it was 40s and rainy and cloudy, and there every day it was sunny and 70s and beautiful.
Yeah. So how soon are you going back?
About another week. We're going to pick up Niall and then cruise through California, possibly stop with some cousins on the way. We'll kind of see what the COVID situation feels like and maybe wing it a little bit. But
yeah, and Totem's out of the water right now, so we've got a few weeks of boat projects to work on, and then hopefully back in the water and south from there.
Yeah.
And again, I was reading one of the blogs. Are you even sure where you're sailing to next, or is that still being determined?
So right now, our mantra is we love Mexico. We really intended to sail back to the South Pacific this year. As you mentioned earlier, our plans are open. A position we never actually expected. We thought we were leaving on a 2 to 5 year sabbatical in 2008, and we got ourselves hooked. And we've been fortunate to find a way to continue to financially string ourselves along and have the health to be able to do this.
Yeah, now unfortunately with COVID and what's going on with the pandemic, it's made the South Pacific and the North Pacific mostly closed up, and so the options are pretty thin. and to sail a lot of ocean miles out to so few options, it doesn't make sense for us. And so
But
we're
Mexico's
going to
great,
enjoy
right?
Mexico. Mexico's awesome.
We love it. The
Yeah.
Pacific side of Mexico has some thousands of miles of coastline. The ports have remained open. The borders never closed, and we're able to
Good-
manage our exposure
Good
really
food,
well.
low cost of living,
Great
cruising.
people, safe, friendly.
Both-
We love it.
Both the locals and filled with cruisers, right? I mean, I haven't done it, so
Cruisers. Yeah.
yeah. The what is it? What's the event the Latitude 38 guys do? Is it the Baja Ha? Not down to Mexico.
That's
Yeah.
right. They organize the Baja Haha annually. It leaves usually shortly after Halloween and goes down from San Diego to Cabo and then around to
Yeah.
La Paz.
Yeah.
They canceled it this year, as most rallies have been canceled. But you know what? It is such a committed group of people that go that one of the regulars who helps lead it every year, she organized what she called the Baja Nada. Of course, that means nothing in Spanish. And the informal fleet, still a couple of dozen boats at least, went down just earlier this month.
Huh. Yeah, good. So let's see so as near as I can tell, this is your life now. It's not what's the next trip. It's, at least for now, this is, you guys live on Totem, take it out when you need to work on it. But for the most part, it's just, that's how you're going.
It is, and we do, and we feel really grateful to be in that position. And I think it helps us be able to deal with this time of uncertainty as well, where our plans got thrown completely up in the air. But I think an essential cruising skill, and kind of an essential life skill, is to be able to look around and choose to be happy and make the best of wherever you are, because they're all different, and we can find what we love where we are. We do actually really love Mexico, though.
Yeah, and we didn't start off with this as a lifestyle shift that was going to happen. We thought it was a sabbatical trip in 2008. 3 years, 5 years, who knew? But we were going to run out of money, and we did run out of money in Australia. And but we figured out a way to string it together and keep going. And in that period where we had 1 foot on land and 1 foot on Totem, trying to make some money, the kids were in mainstream school in Brizzy, and it was a way to kind of check in. Do we want to go back to land life, or do we want to stay on the boat? And we felt like, yeah, we're boat people now. We don't smell very well, and the kids like the boat life, so we're back at it.
So, and am I following it right that your son's at university? And what about 18-year-old? Is she going to head to university as well? That's about that age, right?
It's about the time, but she's not really sure which way she wants to head, and we're in no rush to push her off the boat. So frankly, we'd love to have her spend some more time and maybe do a Pacific lap with us before finding her way. And like COVID, again, it's so much uncertainty with that. So we're happy to keep the family tight.
My 18-year-old is one semester in at university, and it's been not at all as good as it can be, or whatever. It's much different than my older daughter's first semester, that's for sure. And she's coming home this weekend, and she's looking forward to getting home, because it's one part university and it's one part prison. I mean, that's a very spoiled outlook on that. I don't mean it that way, but it's very different.
Very different.
True.
And we hear similar tones from our son. He's in college. He's a junior right now, halfway through his junior year at Lewis and Clark in Portland. And he's got a single dorm room by himself, and they form their little pod, and he can't wait to get back to the boat. He loves school. He's got great friends. He's really enjoying the classes there, but the boat is his identity and his freedom.
He's a circumnavigator with good priorities. He doesn't yet have a driver's license, but he has this 50-ton Master Mariner's license. So
nice. Excellent. So anyway, I had emailed you some of the first questions. I mean, for me, the first section of my questions were just kind of on the general and on the adventure aspect of it. It sounded like questions like, where's the best place you've been, are almost too broad, but can you hit me with a few highlights of just, these are the kind of things most people don't get to do? Boring people like me?
Oh, we're so lucky. We've done a whole presentation before on the amazing places that only cruisers get to go to. And some of them may seem to be accessible, like up in the Sea of Cortez, which of course it's a skip down from the States, and there's a highway that goes all the way to the end, but you find these hidden coves that you can only get to in a boat, where you might as well be a million miles away. But some of the other really special places, I think one of the first ones to really hit us was in 2010 when we stopped in the Cook Islands in Saguaro.
Right.
Yeah, uninhabited island. You only get there by boat, and it was this magic place where it's so removed and remote that it was sharky. It was precarious. There's squalls all the time. There's reefs everywhere. It really is kind of edge of the world place.
If you take a globe view of like Google Earth and you put Saguaro in the middle, it's completely surrounded by water. Like you can just barely catch a continent on one side, and it reminds you of how out there you are. And that sharkiness and that wild edge was really cool. What made it extra special, though, I got to tell about these guys.
Oh, yeah.
There are two park rangers there, James and Oppie. One was a Maori and one was a Cook Islander. And the Cook Islands installs these rangers there in order to facilitate the flow of cruisers to come through legally, since nobody lives there. So they're just there for a few months. And they made it their mission to help us appreciate their place and their environment. You know, they would take us out on adventures, like to walk the reef at night with a flashlight and look for lobster, to show us how to pick up a coconut crab, which if you've ever seen before, have these like crazy sharp claws. Really incredible guys that made it special for us.
But so in a place that remote, are you guys alone with those two, or are there other cruisers there? Or?
We were only there for a couple of weeks, and we had between 5 and maybe 7 other boats.
Okay.
So not alone, but it's such a unique situation. It's like that the other boats around you, you're friends with very quickly if you didn't even know them before, because it is so remote. You're in this unique experience together. That whether it's squalls or sharks or whatever, it's just such a unique place.
Another really favorite place, though, where we were very much alone a lot of the time, was in Papua New Guinea. That's going down truly as one of our favorites for a bunch of reasons. Ultimately, it comes down to the people that we met there, the islanders that were so good to us, so gracious. So welcoming. You did have to kind of learn a social protocol to be a good guest. And as long as we entered respectfully and introduced ourselves respectfully and maybe brought a fish for the chief, it opened the door to these incredible experiences and to hear perspective from people who live so very, very differently from the way they do.
It was very much a time machine there, and different senses. In one sense, there was wreckage from World War II, the Japanese Zero in the water that we could swim on, and a torpedo bomber we could swim on. But then in a different sense, the local people are coming out in dugout canoes. And the only things that they have are things that they made, grew, or caught. That's it. That's what you get there. There's no supply ship like there are in islands in the South Pacific.
Yeah.
So how do you decide when to leave? I mean, you must struggle to leave it. So are you just finally like, well, I guess we better go, even though it's like the greatest place on earth?
It kind of was like that. And ultimately, what pushes us out in a place like that are legal limitations. Our visa is only so long, and then the need to move on for seasonal weather for hurricane season.
Big picture routing. So you have to get somewhere out of cyclone area, and you've got so much time and a lot of miles, so you need to keep pace on.
And most of Papua New Guinea is outside of cyclone risk because it's so close to the equator. It's just not part of the band. But at the same time, they have monsoonal seasons, kind of wind directions, and you want to work with what's favorable.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So this one might have to challenge you to go back to the almost before you left, but I love the thought of the way of asking this question. Can you think of anything that was just much harder than you expected in transitioning to this life? And then also maybe something that you thought, oh, that's going to be so hard, that in the end was like, why were we so worried, or that's no big deal?
One of the things I didn't expect to be really hard that was really hard was to mentally adjust to this amazing life of, there's so much freedom, and theoretically it's our dream. I mean, we had anticipated this since literally the time that we met. We talked about going cruising, and yet that first year was kind of hard on me. I had many times, I left a job that was really great. And I thought I'll never have a job that I feel this fulfilled in again, even though I really want to go cruising. I really want to be able to spend full time with my family. It took about a year for me to get completely into the groove and disengage and stop feeling like I was missing something because I wasn't needed in that professional environment. And I found new ways to find myself, I guess, validated, since I wasn't going to get the next sale, make the client happy, get my, mentee promoted, whatever it was. I had to find new ways to fulfill.
Zen. And I think the flip side, what comes to mind is that when you start cruising, you imagine you are stepping off the edge of the world, and that you've got a supply for forever, and you need every spare part ever created and every tool ever invented on the boat. And then after a while of going, you realize that people everywhere seem to eat. So there's usually food, and you don't need every spare part. And even if you tried, you would miss something. And it all works out. It's not quite, you have to be creative and coming up with solutions now and again, but it's not as overwhelmingly difficult as it feels when you're preparing.
Huh. Interesting. So that I have a couple different sections that springs to a question elsewhere, because you guys do a whole bunch of coaching, right, to help people do exactly what you're doing. Do you find that you've got people who you're looking at them going, trust me, you're ready, you've got enough, you have all the spare parts, it's time to go, and they just can't toss the dock lines? Or
it is definitely something that we see, and then that we help with, because we have people who come to us who've crossed oceans. I mean, they've got actually good experience, but they need they lack the confidence in the security of knowing that they're ready enough.
Yeah. Or different family members, so it's a different dynamic that they're going with, and they need guidance. But people come to us with different things. Some people have read every book under the sun, and they think they know all of the knowledge you need to know to go cruising, and they don't have any practical application of it. And so that's a different slant of how we help them. It's like, okay, here's what you think you know, but here's a dose of reality on that. And then the flip side is there's also this notion, again, that you need to have this $1 million blue water offshore, brick shithouse of a boat to go and sail the ocean. And in reality, it's like a lot of people that we work with, they might be going on a sabbatical trip to the Bahamas and the Caribbean, and you don't need an $800,000 boat to go to the Bahamas. You can sail there in a Sunfish if you really had some adventure. We met this Polish guy who was about 20 who built an open 18-footer in his backyard in Poland. He sailed across the Atlantic Ocean. We met him in the Caribbean.
In Dominica. He was the anchorage. He just looked interesting. So we went over and said hi and asked for his story.
Yeah, but I think the message there is it's more about you than all of the dogma that often gets attached in the type of boat and the type of gear that you need. It's your decisions.
As long as it's Ronstan and Anderson, it's out. Aren't you going to slip that one in there at some point?
Yeah, only the best.
Once you get your Anderson winches, everything else is just details.
The rest just flows.
They do serve very well.
So is the coaching, was that part of the plan all along, or did that come out of necessity? And do you love it? I mean, I had two compliments for you. You have some amazingly positive testimonials. And then for my little plug for you guys, it seems amazingly affordable how you guys do that for anybody who finds their way to you. And I also, just one final, then I'll let you guys talk about it. I love the idea of karma pricing. I would love to do karma pricing for Ronstan. You pay what you think it's worth, and it'll work out somehow.
I think that would be very big hit.
So coaching for us was born ultimately out of necessity. We had to find a way to financially support ourselves. We have no independent wealth, and we literally did spend everything. We were down to groceries on credit card bills when I got my first paycheck in Australia. So leaving Australia, we just committed to figure out ways we could earn income. And coaching actually came later. The first one was Jamie working as a sailmaker again.
Yeah, getting back to, I'd been a designer in building sales, but shifting, you can't do that on a boat. So working with other sailmakers, having them built elsewhere, and selling sails when there's an opportunity, technical expertise, adding that. But the coaching came kind of organically in a way, because
our blog got popular.
The blog was popular, but we also then people would say, well, how did you do it? I'm going next spring. What kind of anchor should I get? And we'd have these questions all the time.
And we put a fair bit of time into trying to answer people,
Yeah,
because we really feel like the world is a better place the more people that get out cruising, because their lives are better and they can influence other people, and we all get more connected as a global community. So that's our little part.
Yeah. And, I don't know how it's one night it was like, okay, people are asking us questions and we need to make money. What should we do here?
Yeah, right.
And now it's working.
And the price
So is it
point
pretty
is
active now, like today, this very day? Do you have a lot of clients and people?
Oh my God,
Insane.
we're swamped.
Yeah.
We're really, really busy.
We're just about at 50 active clients, which is about double what we thought we could handle. But we've figured out tools and efficiency over the couple of years
because a lot of it's one-on-one, and everyone comes at it differently, different goals, different experience, different budget, different region.
Yeah.
But the price point has really been important to us to try to keep it affordable and accessible. That there's a lot of kind of exclusionary pricing in the sailing world in a very bigger way, and people feel squeezed out sometimes. And we want to make sure that anyone feels like they can get into it, because they can. They just maybe need someone to help them see how.
Yeah, I'm from Connecticut, and I grew up on kind of the outside edge of a lot of elitist sailing. And then as a sailmaker there and involved in stuff up in Newport all the time, sailing is expensive, and so and it's like that with cruising, with anything. And so we thought, let's keep it more affordable so that families that don't have a truckload of money can do this, whether it's a sabbatical for a year, because it's life-changing.
So we've got clients with a $20,000 boat budget and a $2 million boat budget.
Yeah. But isn't that one of the cool parts of sailing? I mean, it really can. I can make a case that sailing can be as affordable as anything you want to do. People say, golf's cheaper or whatever, skiing's cheaper. Now, I can put sailing up against it. It can be more, no question, and it's all probably about convenience and fanciness and whatever else. But that's one of the cool things about sailing. It can be so diverse, and it can fit for so many different sorts of people.
Agree.
It's totally true. And at the end of the day, it's the same sunset that you're watching on your $40,000 Beneteau in the $1.5 million Amel.
I love actually sharing pictures. We have one of Totem wrapped up with our buddy boats in the South Pacific, and there's a Baba that didn't have refrigeration. So we've got the classic kind of there, stripped down, lean. They went small so they could go now. And then you've got us in the middle, and we're kind of like the classic plastic, and we've got the fairly typical, but relatively well outfitted cruising boat. And then in the middle was what we called the mothership, which was a Nordhaven 64, which is up that multi-million range. And you know what? We had the best time together. I mean, we had very different passage times, but we always met up at the other end and shared the sunset.
Yeah. As you say, the same sunset, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so coaching's going really well, and the blog keeps going. You're writing for some magazines. Have I got that right as well?
Yeah, the blog is syndicated by Cruising World, which is great. We feel like we connect really well with the community, with the readership that they have. So that's awesome. Helps us then hopefully reach other future sailors, future cruisers.
And so, are you trying to build your audience, or is it what comes and it's fine because it's working well for us, or are you like, we've got to? Do you look at other cruisers that do this kind of stuff as competitors, or it's just not that kind of a world?
We don't really look at them as competitors, but I do look at different media and think about, how do we make sure that we stay on the radar? Because that is important for us to meet our goals, to be able to be recognized and noticeable. And certainly getting affiliated with magazines is helpful for that. But just trying to stay interesting and current and write things people want to read as well. And because we're not YouTubers, and that's a huge segment of the media. Yeah, and a lot of that is just simply, that's a huge additional skill set that we currently don't have. And
time burden. Most of the people that are YouTubers don't have children that they're raising, and so they've got a different time commitment.
Mm-hmm. We got a ton of video content that's kind of for us, I guess, as far as.
We've kicked around the idea for years, and it just never works out, so we've moved on to different things. And so Behan more than I, but I'm also doing some, we're writing for Cruising World Beyond the Blog. We're doing magazine articles for them. We write for 48 North magazine every month. And we're looking at doing more virtual classroom teaching as well for people. So we are
Again, for those coaching client type people, or for boat
coaching
show
and
seminar type?
non-coaching clients. We're looking to broaden out to a bigger population. So the coaching clients, it's really customized to individual couple family needs. And with the virtual classroom, it's more bigger, generic.
It gives us a chance to be
topical.
scalable in a way that the one-to-one coaching is not scalable.
Yeah. Or even a boat show seminar.
Truly.
Yes.
I mean, you could go to even more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So in that sense, COVID's been helpful for us. It's very much, it's normalized interacting online. It's normalized being able to do this, and people are used to it, which is great.
No, honestly, this time last year, it would have never occurred to me to record a video conversation we were having. And now it's like no big deal. And so, I mean, they're very skinny silver linings, or there's few silver linings, but I suppose this could be one.
I'll take it.
Okay. And so, yeah, those are some interesting points about, you're obviously in the remote corners of the world, living on your own, and yet the challenge of, as you say, keeping yourself relevant or known or familiar is must be in conflict a little bit, or a little bit of a balancing act is probably better said than conflict. Fascinating to watch, really.
It does mean we have to pay attention to where the cell towers are.
I was just going to say, the few times we have spoken, you're always like, I'll be in range by whenever.
Exactly. And in the Sea of Cortez, there are fewer cell towers. So,
and it was fun over the summer a few times to unplug and go out to the remote anchorage and swim with the whale sharks and have a great offline experience, and then get back to work a week or two later.
It's funny that you guys in your lifestyle still have to quest for an unplugged experience, which is like my dream come true, or my quest that never happens with my children and myself. It's terrible.
It's out there, Scott. It's out there.
I gotta find it. So anyway, I think we haven't seen each other in a while, possibly because of coronavirus, and because we normally catch up at Annapolis Boat Show or one of the boat shows, and that's probably the next time, I would imagine. Whoever gets to put on the
seeing
first
you
show.
in October next year. Hopefully, we'll be flying back from Mexico, or maybe even Fiji. If the stars align and the South Pacific is accessible for us in this next year, we'd love to go back. We're not counting on it at this point, although the vaccine news is encouraging. We had expected to fly from Fiji to Annapolis last month.
Yeah, right. What a difference.
That was the plan.
Yeah. All right. It's funny, as you were talking about the magazines and stuff, I'll make a point of, once we get this little interview finished up, I'll send it to Mark Pillsbury, and maybe he'll have interest in it or someplace to post it. Maybe he could help us get some eyeballs on it. Anything else from us, from a Ronstan or an Anderson standpoint? You guys, your blocks are all working. I'm assuming the winches are still working. Anything you need, or
oh boy, those are
just call me when you're ready.
Thank you. I just love the winches. I mean, Jamie's low friction ring guy. I love the winches.
I fondle the winches
you
too.
You do too. But that we had, our daughter, our youngest, I think, when we got them, I think she was 13, servicing them on her own.
Yeah. We're due for a bit of a winch service once we're back in the water, so maybe we'll try and film that with
get some better quality film.
with the girls doing it.
But I love that. I mean, to me, that's so compelling that they are so much easier to maintain. They are simply better built. Aside from the fact that they're beautiful and they work so well, they're just better built, better mousetrap. And people, when they feel intimidated at the prospect of maintaining a winch, and I think that can feel intimidating for some people, then they don't do it. Well, that's a problem, right? That's a problem. Cause a bigger problem when you least need it.
So how's business been for you guys during this stretch?
Yeah,
I'll tell the same story I've told. April was our worst month ever. May was only a little bit better. And then June started to feel not great, but okay. And then, like, since July, it's been going pretty well. And I think that, and this is in most of our markets, so that's speaking of Europe and Australia and the US as well, Nobody's traveling really. People are staying closer to home, and I think people are both playing on their boats and working on their boats. And so, I don't think our experience is unique. I think that that boating is doing okay at the moment. Which knock wood. I mean, it's been going all right, but it's another challenging time. I mean, I don't know I know how much time you've spent in Australia, but Victoria had a really strong lockdown over the last kind of 10 to 12 weeks, and they've absolutely succeeded. There are 0 cases there now versus here, around the States, and I'm assuming it's the same in Washington. Life's kind of normal, except that there's coronavirus everywhere.
Everywhere.
And so we're kind of expecting to get shut down. We have plans to drive to a cabin for Thanksgiving that the governor may say, because it's in Massachusetts and we're in Rhode Island, may say we can't do it. But part of me says, bring it on. Let's deal with this and save for the next whatever. And as you say, until we can get to vaccine time. So business has been good, but it's very unnerving. It's challenging.
Yeah, I bet.
And we see it in a couple of ways too. One is, I mean, for us too, in terms of coaching inquiries, things really dried up in March and April when it was all uncertain. But starting right around the end of April and ever since then, we've had a multiple of the rate of increase we usually get because sailing is an escape pod. And I'm guessing that's what started to happen for you then in the summertime as people got out in their boats and they're like, right, this is where I can go and be free. I also do for Good Old Boat Magazine. I manage their social media channels right now. And I'll tell you, people out on their boats this summer, I feel like it was a huge, huge summer for boating activity because that was safe. Good Old Boat's this sort of much more kind of the smaller boat, DIY, classic boat, hands-on boat. And we had so much material from people just getting out and getting on the water and finding their freedom and their peace of mind that way.
Yeah, we sell a lot through West Marine, and they send us their sales reports of exactly what our product that they sell, and you can tell. I mean, it was blocks, it was snap shackles, it was eye straps, and just bits and pieces that make boats go, and watches and spray tops and things that people go on their way to a race. Didn't sell, we didn't sell much at all this summer, but the stuff that keeps the boats going, and you can see it wasn't to go out racing, it probably wasn't to go out cruising, it was just to go out on their boat.
Just to get out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if there's another little silver lining here that more people got on boats because that was an avenue than might have in other times, maybe we're going to see more people getting into boating in the years ahead.
If what we hear from brokers and what we're seeing with our coaching clients for on the cruising spectrum of people that want to go cruising, that realize that life is a little unpredictable, and so why wait for retirement to do this thing? Then it seems like the marine industry might do well as COVID hopefully gets under control with vaccine and we move on.
It will be, and I have no prediction of this whatsoever, but it will be fascinating to see how people come out of this. Will everybody go back to just buying stuff and traveling all over the place and getting on an airplane every whatever? Or will there be more of, like for Ronstan, I was going to Australia 5 times a year, and I'm sure it'll be fewer. I don't know. It won't be 0, which it will be in 2020, but it'll be fewer, and we'll do more of this, but we'll also really cherish the time together as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yep.
Yeah. All right, guys, anything else? Anything we didn't touch on? Or that's probably feels like a really good catch up, actually. It's really interesting to hear where you guys are, and watch you go to Mexico next.
Likewise, it's good to catch up. I mean, we really miss being able to have the personal catch-ups that usually happen at the boat show. Those are definitely all about people too, and the interactions that we can have there. And I'm glad we could do this. We're happy to chime in as members of the cruising community anytime. But I'm looking forward to being warm again soon. Sorry.
It's so cold here. It's so cold right now. All right. Well, you guys are an inspiration.
When you can, okay? When things open up, you come down to Mexico and come sailing on Totem.
We had to cancel a trip to Mexico this Christmas. So next Christmas we'll find you. I'll find you.
It's a deal.
Do it.
All right. Great to catch up. You guys are an inspiration. Have fun, and have fun back in Mexico.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Bye now.
See ya.